Welcome, Deep Diver. So today, we're taking a journey into some really unsettling corners of our world. You've sent us this fascinating stack of sources, all detailing these strange, sometimes, well, horrifying encounters out in the wilderness. Our mission basically is to dig into these accounts and pull out the most important insights. We're going to explore what truly lurks unseen, challenging our whole understanding of the natural world, maybe even reality itself.
Yeah, and it's important to stress, these aren't just like spooky campfire tales. What we're diving into here are detailed accounts, often with some really perplexing evidence that just defy conventional explanation. They really push us, to consider the limits of our knowledge, biology, physics, even what we actually perceive. So get ready, because this is a genuine trip into the unknown.
Okay, let's start with one that's just profoundly disturbing. It goes back to 1953, Wade, Ontario. The Huggin family, they had three young daughters, and they were settling in for a 6-week summer vacation. Remote cabin near Fox Lake. We're talking a really wild, isolated part of Ontario, right in the middle of this huge, swampy forest. Sounds peaceful, right? An escape.
Well, it's exactly that kind of remote beauty, isn't it, that often hides the most inexplicable stuff.
And so it was. July 5th. The adults are inside, packing for a day at the lake. 5-year-old Geraldine is playing just outside the cabin. Her two older sisters are nearby in the front yard. 10 o'clock rolls around, time to leave, and Geraldine is just gone. Nobody saw her leave. Her sisters didn't see her go. Everyone had seen her maybe 10 minutes before. And when the family started calling her name, the sound just boomed through those dense woods. She should have heard them, right? Even if she'd run flat out for 10 minutes. But nothing. No reply.
The panic must have been immediate. Totally understandable. Police were called, professional trackers too, guys who knew that wilderness inside out. Even the army from Winnipeg got involved. But almost as soon as the search started, the heavens just opened, pouring rain. Washed away any potential footprints, erasing that crucial early evidence.
Awful timing.
Just terrible. And then the weather turned cold, dropped into the 40s Fahrenheit. And Geraldine, she was only in a light shirt and shorts. Her father's comment to the searchers is just heartbreaking. He said she was afraid of the dark and would probably just sit down and cry. He hoped, that would stop her from wandering deeper into the woods. That detail really grounds the whole thing.
It really does. Makes it so terribly real. And what the searchers found over the next few days just gets more baffling. Day 3. Footprints. They think they're Geraldine's. Found high up on this mossy ledge overlooking Fox Lake. They showed she had looked out, okay, but then turned and walked away from the lake. Headed straight into a swamp where the prints just vanished.
Right, just dissipated. Then, day 7, another set of prints are found. Same swamp area. But these weren't a child's. The sources called them huge prints, implying, an enormous human being or maybe some enormous animal. People immediately started thinking, okay, is there a connection here? Even without direct proof linking them to Geraldine.
And it keeps getting more unsettling. 9 days after she vanished, a piece of her plaid shirt turns up, 2.5 miles away, on the shore of a different lake, Long Lake, and within 24 hours of finding that shirt piece, they found her remains.
Yeah, and this is where conventional explanations really start to fall apart. Very little of Geraldine was left. Clear signs of, significant animal predation. However, her clothing wasn't torn, and there was no blood on it, which strongly suggests the predation happened after she was already deceased. It wasn't the cause of death.
Okay, wait, so something else happened first.
That's what the evidence implies. Investigators also found this drag line leading from a nearby meadow to where her remains were. And in that meadow, they found matted grass. It looked like, quote, something big had been laying there. They speculated that was the kill site.
So they connect the huge print from the swamp to this, body-shaped print in the meadow grass, believing the same massive thing killed her. But if it's not a known animal and a giant person seems impossible, what then? Where do you even start?
That's exactly the problem. The investigation just hit a wall. They were stuck between these two completely illogical scenarios. Imagine being a seasoned investigator looking at evidence that just doesn't fit anything you know. They ruled out wolves, other known predators, based on how the remains looked. The giant human theory. Just, preposterous, frankly. So in the end, the family was told that because there wasn't enough left, they couldn't determine a cause of death. The investigators were pretty blunt. Honestly, we don't know what did this. This case, it really challenges our basic assumptions about predators. Suggests either an unknown species, incredibly stealthy, or maybe something else entirely, something that defies biological classification. It really highlights the limits of forensics when the perpetrator doesn't fit any known category.
It's just a truly haunting case. So many questions left hanging. Okay, so if the Huggin case shows us the limits of what we know about biology, this next story, it really blurs the lines of perception and reality itself. Let's talk about Jan McCabe. This happened in the Ohio woods back in 2010. Jan was an experienced deer hunter, okay? She's in a tree stand, familiar woods, not super remote, near Lima, Ohio.
Right, but what she encountered was anything but familiar. About 6:20 p.m., she just texted a friend, and suddenly the forest goes completely quiet, like utterly silent. No birds, no crickets, no squirrels, nothing. Now, as a hunter, Jan knew silence often means a large predator nearby, but she said this silence was different. So sudden and so complete that it genuinely scared her. She actually texted her friend back. The woods just went completely silent. Very odd.
Wow. And then, as she lowers her phone, what she sees next, just 20 feet away in a tree across from her, it just defies logic. She described it as a visual distortion, like, the heat haze rising off hot pavement. But it looked alive, she said. It had mass.
Phew.
Like a see-through person that had been wrapped in saran wrap. That's her description.
Yeah, incredibly specific and strange.
She rubs her eyes, thinking maybe it's a floater, but when she looks again, it's moved closer. It's perched on the branch staring at her. She's horrified, obviously, but she wants to document it. So she quickly snaps a photo with her BlackBerry just as the thing disappears behind the tree.
And almost instantly, boom, the forest sounds come back. Normal again. Jan was really shaken up, understandably. At first, she tried to dismiss it. It was just my imagination. Thought the photo must be blurry because she'd messed it up somehow, covered the lens maybe. But later that night, something crucial happens. Her husband, Bruce, he's an optical physicist, right, gets an email from their nephew. The nephew's high school is just a mile from those same woods. And he tells Bruce that he and his band saw a bright circular light hovering in the exact same forest between 7:50 and 8:00 p.m. that day. Apparently, something similar had happened a year before. Scared their instructor, too.
Okay, so the nephew's sighting, different time, but same place. That's interesting. This prompts Jan to tell Bruce the whole story about the distortion thing.
Yeah.
And Bruce, being an optical physicist, looks at Jan's blurry photo, and he finds this anomaly. See, Jan's BlackBerry back then could only take pictures in 3 specific resolutions. Small, medium, large. That's it. But this picture, it was some kind of random size the phone literally couldn't produce.
Right. Not a standard setting.
Exactly. Jan swears she didn't mess with settings. Her other photos from that day, normal resolution. Bruce even tried to replicate it. Ran scientific experiments, couldn't duplicate the anomaly.
So his conclusion, based on his expertise, trusting Jan's account, was that whatever was in the trees distorted this image. He basically asserted there was a third-party effect on this picture. What's really fascinating here is how this event kind of straddles subjective experience and objective data. It makes you ask, could certain phenomena directly interfere with our text, not just our senses, implying some kind of energy or interaction physics hasn't cataloged yet? And the corroborating light sighting, even though separate, plus the scientific analysis of the photo, it just deepens the whole mystery.
That is fascinating. The idea that something could physically alter a digital file. Okay, so if Ohio showed us reality itself might bend and tech can be affected, our next story suggests what we hear can be just as reality bending. We're going to the Sierra Nevada mountains, 1971, a small, remote hunting camp. Famous among a certain group, but hard to get to rugged 8-mile trail, 4,000-foot climb. Ron Moorhead, one of the original 4 guys who used it, called it the closest to heaven he thought he'd ever get.
Sounds idyllic. But even there, they ran into something truly terrifying. Late in 1971, Ron and the other 3 are just sitting around their campfire after hunting. First, they hear this grunting sound. Okay, maybe a bear, typical enough. But then comes this frightening whooping sound you would expect from an ape. A single, loud whoop. Then a different whoop responds from somewhere else in the forest. They realize, oh, there are at least 2 of these things communicating. Terrified, they scramble into their heavy timber shelter built sturdy, specifically for bear protection.
Smart move. And
Then they hear heavy footsteps coming closer, stopping just outside the firelight, just beyond the clearing. These things, now on opposite sides of the camp, start. Well, Ron said, speaking to each other. In a language that almost sounds human, but it was nonsensical. Like an imitation of a human language.
with imitation human language, that's chilling.
Absolutely. For hours, these things just ran around the perimeter of the camp, talking back and forth in this otherworldly language. Then finally, they whooped again and ran off.
Can you even imagine the terror, hearing that just outside your flimsy shelter? Knowing they're massive and they sound almost conversational, but not. It's primal fear.
It really is. The men were so shaken, When they left, they couldn't even properly describe what they'd heard. But Ron, he became obsessed. He had to know what it was. He actually convinced the others to go back, but this time they brought an audio recorder. They
Ah.
built a huge fire, nervously waiting. And sure enough, Ron hears footsteps running towards the camp. They all bolt for the shelter again, and Ron flicks on the recorder.
And this recording, this is where it gets really compelling, right? The objective evidence. Ron sent it to Dr. R. Lynn Curlin, professor of electrical engineering at the University of Wyoming. Dr. Curlin and his team analyzed it. Their conclusion: the recording was unaltered, unedited, and authentic.
That's huge. But they found more. The vocal range of whatever made those sounds was dramatically higher and lower than that of humans. Based on the average pitch and track length, which relates to lung capacity and vocal cord size, they estimated the creatures were somewhere between 7'3" and 8 feet tall.
7 to 8 feet tall.
Wow. And adding even more weight, the cryptolinguist Scott Nelson chimed in. He pointed out it would have been nearly impossible in 1971 to convincingly dub human voices over the creature sounds you hear on the tape, because you can hear both the creatures and the man's voices reacting simultaneously at points. Despite loads of attempts over the years to debunk it, that recording still stands up as legitimate.
So, a really rare case. Compelling story, but backed by solid scientific analysis.
Exactly. It really pushes the boundaries of what we accept as possible in the natural world. Ron Moorhead, by the way, he stopped hunting there, but he's gone back multiple times. Still, he says he has no idea what's out there. The data is as solid as the story is terrifying.
Okay, from unsettling sounds to something that actively lays siege to a family home. Let's dive into the Martin family's story. Palmyra, Maine, 2006. Eric and Shelley Martin, daughter Chelsea, they moved to this isolated farmhouse, surrounded by dense, untrailed forest. Classic setup. Eric's a hunter, has guns, but Shelley's uneasy, so he keeps them locked up securely out in the barn.
Right, an important detail later. And the signs started subtly there, too. Early 2006, Eric and Shelley see these pulsating lights way off at the edge of the woods. Hundreds of meters away where there's no road, Eric figures, maybe poachers. He and his son Sean walk towards them. The lights fade out, but then they hear something walking parallel to them in the brush, maybe 15 meters off. Spooked them enough to turn back.
Okay, creepy.
Yeah. Then, a month later, daughter Chelsea and her boyfriend Nathan take the dogs into the same woods. The dogs just stop dead in their tracks outside this large den. But it looked intentionally made. Leaned wood, moss, dirt, grass, with a circular hole for an entrance. Nathan hears growling from inside. They got out of there fast. When they told Eric and Sean, they confirmed, yep, same area where they heard something stalking them before. So you've got lights, stalking sounds, now a constructed den. It suggests something strange is definitely present and maybe territorial.
Like a slow buildup of dread. Okay, then months later, the main event, the siege. Eric and Shelley are on their porch, nightly coffee ritual, low mist hanging over the field, and they notice. It's dead silent again. No wildlife sounds, which was really unusual for their place. Eric suddenly gets this intense feeling of danger, tells Shelley, we need to go inside now. No. Shelley grabs a high-powered flashlight, scans the field, and stops halfway across. 5 huge wolf-like creatures are just standing there in the middle of the field, staring right at them.
And then they charged. So fast, Shelley said, she couldn't even keep the light on them. They scramble inside, lock the door, immediately start securing all the downstairs windows and blinds. Eric feels totally helpless, right? His guns are way out in the barn. Then comes the detail that just sends chills down your spine. Upstairs, Shelley and Chelsea peek cautiously out a window. One of the creatures looks up directly at Shelley, stands up on its 2 legs, becoming, she estimated, 8 feet tall. Shelley literally gasped and fell over in shock.
8 feet tall. On 2 legs.
That's what she reported. And these creatures weren't acting like frantic animals. They were just waiting patiently on the gravel in front of the house. Their behavior was so coordinated, almost intelligent. That's a critical piece here. Imagine being trapped like that, barricaded in your own home, listening to something outside that just breaks all the rules of animal behavior you know. The psychological terror. Immense.
Absolutely chilling. And it got worse, didn't it? Eric tries to make a run for his truck, maybe back it up to the door for a quick escape, but his motion sensor light kicks on, reveals him, and the creatures charge him again. He barely makes it back inside. They call the police, but the officer just blows it off. Probably a moose or a bear. No help. The family feels completely trapped.
So they barricade everything, heavy furniture against doors and windows, arm themselves with kitchen knives, an axe, whatever they could find. Then the creatures move on to the porch itself. They can hear them bumping the walls, communicating somehow, howling. Then they jump up onto the first floor roof. which gave them access to look into the second-floor windows.
Oh, man. Looking in the windows.
Yeah. Periodically, they'd walk past the windows, put their paws up on the glass, trying to peer inside through the thin curtains. All night long, they hear this loud scratching noise, like the creatures were trying to burrow their way into the house. But strangely, they never actually broke the glass. It's that coordinated attack, the looking in, that speaks volumes.
Unbelievable.
Finally, at sunrise, they just left. The family goes outside, finds massive footprints with huge claws, tufts of hair caught on fence posts, deep scratch marks all over the house. Especially the front door and those second-floor windows. Clear evidence they were trying to get in, burrow through. The whole experience was so traumatic, the family sold the house, moved away fast, never had anything like it happen again. You look at the whole picture, the lights, the den, the sustained intelligent siege, the upright posture. It points to something way beyond known wildlife. It's about entities showing unnerving strategy and persistence.
That level of coordinated predatory intelligence is terrifying. Okay, speaking of inexplicable behavior, let's wrap with one more. Mike, the wildland firefighter. This one's incredibly strange. Idaho, 2004. Mike's an assistant superintendent for wildland firefighters. He's out scouting an emerging fire on an ATV down this ancient, unused logging road.
Right. And he encounters a bobcat, runs perpendicular to him, but instead of just bolting, it stops about 100 feet ahead, turns, faces him in a very aggressive posture.
Yeah.
Mike's immediately thinking, this is weird. Bobcats are usually super elusive, nocturnal. This one's out in daylight, being aggressive.
Yeah.
Then the bobcat opens its mouth and starts screaming like a person, a sound Mike found intensely weird.
Screaming like a person. Okay.
Yeah. Then the bobcat runs to a nearby tree, sprints right up it, and perches on a branch directly over the trail Mike needs to take, like waiting for him. Mike has no choice but to drive directly underneath it.
Okay, that's bizarre enough. But it gets weirder, right?
Oh, yeah. About half a mile further down this road, Mike finds this tiny, old, abandoned cabin. It's on federal land where private buildings are illegal anyway. It's all boarded up, except the front door isn't. The doorknob's missing. And in its place, there's a new, shiny silver chain link threaded through the hole and wrapped around a post, like a makeshift recent lock.
Huh. Someone's been there recently.
Seems like it. He shines his flashlight inside through a crack.
Yeah.
And his words totally creeped out. Why? Because he sees all this furniture inside, all upside down.
Yeah.
That feeling of being watched, backs away quick, runs back to his ATV.
Upside down furniture. Okay, this is getting really strange.
And here's the kicker. As he rounds the corner, heading back up the logging road, he sees a woman standing in the middle of the path, in the exact same spot where he'd just seen the bobcat. She's described as Native American, wearing a tattered white nightgown, barefoot. And she looks at him, Mike said, as if she's expecting him.
Whoa.
And she lets out a blood-curdling scream. And Mike says it was identical to the bobcat scream. Then she runs to the exact same tree the bobcat climbed, scrambles up it, and perches like an animal on the very same branch the bobcat was on, just looking down at him, mouth open like she's about to scream again.
No way.
Mike just guns the ATV, speeds right underneath her. He gets out of there as fast as he can.
The identical scream, perching like an animal. I mean, what does that even suggest? Identity. Mimicry, some kind of transformation. It's absolutely chilling.
It really is. Mike told his crew, but the fire was priority. They couldn't investigate the cabin or the area. Days later, though, he's in a local bar, asks about any old buildings out in that part of the forest. A local just laughs, mentions this old cabin where some crazy lady thought herself as a witch and she apparently had a bobcat for a pet. Kids were always told to stay away. So this story, it blends this modern professional account from Mike with elements of local folklore, witchcraft, this inexplicable animal and human behavior. It really suggests maybe there are deeper unseen forces or connections at play in the wilderness that just defy our normal understanding. Makes you wonder how much truth is buried in that kind of local lore, right?
Yeah.
Without things we just haven't categorized.
We've covered, wow, a lot today. From that poor child vanishing in Ontario, the baffling evidence left behind, to the visual distortion in Ohio that messed with technology, the recordings of those huge, whooping creatures in the Sierras, that terrifying intelligent siege in Maine, and finally, this incredible story of the screaming bobcat and the woman in Idaho. Each one leaves you with this profound sense of unease, doesn't it? And just a pile of unanswered questions.
Absolutely. What really stands out, I think, is how these accounts, they seem disparate, right? Different times, places, types of phenomena. But collectively, they really challenge the boundaries of what we think is possible. Some push the limits of known biology, undiscovered species, maybe, incredible size, intelligence. Others seem to blur the lines of perception and reality itself, hinting at maybe interdimensional stuff or energy fields we don't get. And others make you question consciousness, mimicry, even the line between animal and human.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't just like one-off weird events. They seem to be patterns of inexplicable happenings that just keep persisting, suggesting there's a deeper, more complex layer to the world than we usually acknowledge.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if those deepest, darkest parts of the wilderness hold more than just animals we haven't classified yet? What if they hold phenomena that actually transcend our current understanding of biology, of physics,
Hmm.
of reality itself? Something to think about.